If you're authentic, that's how people connect with you. And that's how people build trust with you. They want to show up and work with people who are being themselves.
Y'all, today's show is so good.
But number one, I've never seen an intro like that.
It is my hope and desire that not only will episode 30 still be fun, but episode 300 will be even more fun. You were made for something great, so go and be awesome.
Ten seconds remaining.
Hello, and welcome to the show. My name is Renee Hastings, and I'm your host of Renee Speaks. Y'all, today's show is going to be so great, and part of that reason is because today's show is sponsored by Executive Help Now. Executive Help Now is your virtual assistant service agency, and we're all about simplifying your business so that you can focus on what really matters. From streamlining operations to managing administrative tasks and keeping everything organized, our team is here to help you thrive. If you're ready to make life a little bit easier, visit us at www.executivehelpnow.org. Y'all, today's guest is simply amazing. Her name is Courtney Muller, and she is a certified career and leadership coach with over 15 years of experience in people operations and talent acquisition. She helps professionals overcome career challenges, gain clarity, and navigate job searches and build leadership skills for long-term success. She's passionate about empowering leaders at all levels. Y'all put your hands together for Courtney Muller.
Hi, Renee. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. We're so excited to have you on the show. And I cannot wait to learn more about you and how you got started on this journey toward helping not only individuals in their job search, but organizations in their leadership training and building skills.
Sure. Having a background in human resources and people operations, it was about maybe 8 years ago where I was looking for ways to expand my skill set and have more of an impact as a leader. And I was really drawn to coaching. Coaching is very solutions focused, helping others reach their goals. And I love creating that partnership with clients, helping them to stay motivated, stay on track towards their goals, hold them accountable. Have that growth mindset is really rewarding. And as you mentioned, I work with two different groups of clients. One of them is that leadership development space and helping them to build essential leadership skills, build confidence as a leader, lead effectively. And then the other group is my career changers, people who are looking to navigate that next step in their career, build confidence in the job search strategy that they are using, and ultimately land the job that they want.
Love that. So before you got started on a career, do you think that there was something like as you were growing up, like where you were raised, how you were raised, that kind of formed the foundation for taking this journey?
I think I've always had jobs growing up where I was helping people. And whether it was real estate when I was very, very young, babysitting, super young, and even in college, I was working at the Childhood Development Center at my university, working with people, supporting people, helping them to feel happy, successful, hit their goals has always sort of been that core purpose for me. And, I think building my career post-grad, it made sense to go in that direction. And I started in retail, which I think is such a great crash course of figuring out how to do a million things at once. And I was managing stores, I was managing people. it's such a great way to, build those skills in a fast-paced environment. And eventually I wanted to bring that into the corporate space and have that sort of impact on a bigger scale.
Wow. Wow. That is so awesome. And yes, definitely in retail, you kind of get in with your feet to the fire and it is, hit the ground running and you're exposed to so many different opportunities for coaching or especially when you're in customer service. You get all the different kinds of all the different people shopping, different personalities. Some people might be easier to please than others, and others can be more challenging. And would you agree that that kind of keeps you on your toes and refines that ability to just kind of be what people need in the moment?
Absolutely. I find that retail space is, some of the places where I kind of started to build that emotional intelligence, right? And how to interact well with people, how to empathize, no matter what the challenge is, it's really being able to connect with people, help
Yeah.
them to listen and listen well, and to help them resolve, that challenge or problem that they're coming to you with. And yeah, when you're, running a store, I think it's not people, it's the merchandising, it's making sure you're hitting your revenue goals. And, for a 20 something earlier in their career, I found it to be a really great learning opportunity and something that I'm very grateful I could do.
Yeah, absolutely. And for business owners who, like you said, own brick and mortar facilities where they have customers who come in, it's all about merchandising and making, attracting people to want to come in from outside to see what you actually have inside. And then the experience that they get to have once they're inside the doors. That's where the rubber really meets the road. And you have an opportunity to train your people to make this an experience that they will never forget on the good
Definitely.
side. Right?
Definitely. And it's challenging. It's, you have the holiday seasons, you have all sorts of ups and downs, you run out of certain items. I think it's such a great space to, learn how to create that great experience both for employees that want to
Mhm.
show up and do an amazing job, and then also, anyone coming into that environment, what sort of lasting impression do you want to leave with them? Were you, kind, supportive, helpful? Did you make it fun and interesting and easy? There's so much that can be learned in that environment.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. And I'm all about professional growth and development. So I'm always taking a class or a course or something to try to, stay on top of my game in the business that we run even. And one of the coaches that I had met with in the past was actually talking about that holiday season that you just mentioned and how as business owners who have brick and mortar type things or physical products to sell, how to get prepared for that in advance of the season coming, buying in bulk if you need to, taking into account, delayed shipping times and, just different things like that. So there's so much to consider when you actually own a building with product and you're, engaging with people, especially around the holiday season. But
Yeah.
as we move from that so much, so most people who are in a business understand, yes, I'm in this business because I have this passion, I have this drive, I have this desire to help people. I want to, use my gifts, skills, and talents, but may not be very clear on how to make decisions that further that goal that they have. So, how can leaders gain clarity in their decision making?
Mm. I love this question because I actually work with people a lot around this. I think what I try to do with leaders is help them to create what is that decision making criteria for them. And I think this could go into sort of two buckets of day-to-day decision making versus more of that strategic, big picture, high impact sort of decision making. But I think
Mhm.
ultimately it's really making sure to have that simple way to sort of look at, the choices that we make day to day. What's that criteria? What's that data that we need to collect? Who do we need to work with to unpack that decision. It could be certain stakeholders within the organization. It could even be having a framework like SWOT analysis, which is very popular. But I
Mhm.
think really once you make that decision, then also reflecting on it, learning from it, having some sort of debrief. And I think the more transparent you are with how you make decisions as a leader, the more trust and respect you earn as a leader. Often people want to understand how are decisions made day to day in the business, and having that sort of transparency can really be wonderful as a leader's building their team.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And for those that aren't familiar with SWOT analysis, SWOT is an acronym for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And when you do a deep dive into what are the strengths that you bring to this company, what are the strengths that your company offers to the client, make a list of all of those. What are the weaknesses that you all have as a company or as a team? Where are some things falling short? That is super critical to know and understand. And because once you understand it, you can deal with it. And then there's those opportunities. What makes you right for whatever it is that people need? Why should people choose you? Or where are the opportunities that exist, maybe that you don't currently have, but maybe something to strive for? And then the threats, to your business. What are the things that who are your competitors? What are some things that could impact the longevity of your business? All of those things are so critical to know and understand immediately. And it really helps to get outside influence and input into
Yeah,
this SWOT analysis. We just recently did it with our team, and I
nice.
asked all of our team members who've been with us, what do you think are our strengths? What do you think are our weaknesses? Where are our opportunities, and what are our threats? I literally did that with our whole team.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so fresh, and I can go, just kind of spew it all out. We
Well,
just
it's a
went through that.
powerful exercise, right? And I think it
Yeah.
really brings people together to have that strategic conversation. And like you said, I think it's important from a leadership perspective to get that perspective. You cannot
Yeah.
make decisions in a silo. You have to really look to your trusted team members and make sure that they are providing that feedback, that they're involved along the way. Ultimately, right, leaders will have to make decisions and take
Yeah.
that feedback into consideration. But when people feel like they are also a part of that process, it can be really powerful and it really brings people together.
Absolutely, 100%. And they all bring such great perspectives. Some of the things that they shared, I was like, I would never have thought of this in a million years. But because they have been through what they've been through, or have a frame of reference that I'm not familiar with, they brought it, and it was invaluable. It was one of the best exercises that we've been through in a long time. And I'm super excited as a leader to implement a lot of their thoughts into the decision making for the future of our business as well.
That's
So,
wonderful.
one of the other things that I just learned, so like I said, I'm all about continuous improvement and professional development, is that your values play a huge role in your decision-making process. So we have personal values as well as business values. Like, what are our corporate values? And is there alignment? There should be alignment on some level.
Yeah.
And so when you understand what your personal values are, what matters to you as a person, then what does that look like for your business? And then when I've discovered that when you understand what your business values are, that's a better place to come from when it comes to maybe an opportunity for coaching. If we have a value that says we have this high standard of excellence, and maybe you're not meeting the bar, you're giving coaching based on the value, like where they stand against the value, not like your own personal opinion. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. We in the coaching space, we do a lot of values-based coaching and
Mhm.
helping people to really identify what are those core values that lead us day to day that we operate under, and helping to identify them first so then we can really make sure that people are living by them day to day. And if they're not, how do we make those shifts that align more with, that those core values that are deep within us? And
Mhm.
sometimes we'll find that people have that misalignment. They might be operating under someone else's values. And sometimes even in the workspace, our personal values might not align with that of the organization. And really making sure that we work through that is important, because if we're not feeling it, or if we're not believing in what we're trying to sell within the organization, I think people notice those things. If we're not living authentically, if we're not being ourselves, that can really resonate and show up in certain ways, and people see those things.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. I think I say 100% like 100 times, like in a show. I need a better word. Anyways, I cannot agree with you more. So important. If our values are misaligned to the company's values, I think that's a great opportunity for us to assess how we're spending our time and where we're spending our time. Maybe we should be spending our time with a company that more closely aligns with our values. Do you know what I mean? So, and
Absolutely.
that's okay, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing I would always tell people is to seek that resolution first internally. And maybe it's talking with your manager, talking with leadership, and finding ways to connect within the workspace that you're in, if you're happy or if you're trying to make it work. But
Mhm.
ultimately, I think deep down, if there is that disconnect, it might warrant exploring new opportunities, right? And day to day, we want to be feeling like we are aligned with that purpose, that we are working towards something that aligns with what we want deep down in our career and our goals that we have. So it's tough, and I think sometimes those decisions have to be made, but it's for the better of the individual to, do what feels right to them and honors the values that they have.
Right, absolutely. And stay true to themselves, stay true to their
Yeah,
calling, because not everyone is for everyone. And
exactly.
and that's okay, and that's what makes the world go round, that's what makes us all unique and valuable, because of what we each individually bring and can contribute to a team. But if it's a misalignment, that should be a huge red flag for, like you said, trying to get resolution to see if this is a deal breaker, if you can work through it, or if it's time to look at other opportunities that more closely align with your values. And so that kind of leads me, Courtney, to my next question. So, when you come to this realization, if you're a team member working for someone else, or you're a business owner, and maybe you even have a client that you're not so awesome, crazy about, because of these misaligned values, that can be a very difficult conversation to have. So what is your advice for handling difficult conversations?
Yeah, I think this is one of the biggest skills that any leader can develop, and it takes time. And I think there's always going to be challenging conversations that test us and push us and make us feel uncomfortable. But the thing that I always work with my leaders on is preparing in advance. And
Mhm,
there's a framework that I typically tell people to use to prepare your thoughts. The first
mm,
is really, what's the goal of a conversation? What do you hope to achieve in having that difficult conversation? Having your talking points, what are those data points, or what are the facts? What's happening that you need to express, to this individual?
mhm,
And making sure you give space for them to respond to it. You want to make it a two-way conversation, because everybody deserves to be heard. And there could be, a misinterpretation happening or miscommunication. Once
mhm,
you sort of give that space to share your thoughts, hear how their perspective is, then you really work towards that resolution. And sometimes it's not easy. Sometimes you have to kind of push yourself to find that common ground. And I think it's important to, have very good listening and empathy and openness, and, really making sure that you are creating that space where people can share their perspective, reach some
mhm.
sort of solution together, take an action and commit to it together, that this is how we're going to change, or, resolve what's happening. And I think the other thing that helps quite a bit is putting yourself in their shoes. So even before the conversation, put yourself in their shoes. Think about how they might respond to what you're saying. And I think that can really help to anticipate potential responses and be ready for what may come up. But in the end, we can't predict how people will respond, but I think it's so important to take that time to prepare. It helps us to get a little bit more comfortable with sometimes what could be a very uncomfortable conversation.
Yes, I love that. So being prepared in advance is, I think, one of the biggest factors in overcoming the fear of having a difficult conversation. And I love how you said being listening, empathy, and openness. Provide an environment where people know that you truly want to hear them. You want to know what is going on with them, where they're coming from, what their perspective is, maybe even their frame of reference. Like maybe something is triggering something that, you don't even know about. And of course, not getting too personal, but still having something to take into consideration as you think about, well, maybe this is why this person acts this way, or maybe this is why this is such a challenge for them. And then having empathy, for that situation. And then as a business owner, deciding, is this something that will benefit them or do them a disservice if we continue on this path? Right. So, and that's, I think, a communication that the two of you or whoever's in the conversation have openly and honestly to determine whether or not it's a good fit. And the sooner I think you realize these things, the better. Because my grandmother used to say, just nip it in the bud.
Well, it's that thing, right, where we as humans don't love confrontation. And right. I have yet to come across somebody who loves to deal with difficult conversations, but it's such an important skill to develop as a leader, because if we're avoiding things, if we're sweeping things under the rug, if we're not addressing tension or conflict or difficult situations, it's going to fester, it's going to build. Our team, those who report to us, are going to think that we're not, we're avoiding things, that we're not taking control of situations that need to be resolved. So it's uncomfortable, but I think the more practice, the more prep you can do, and really kind of sit with that openness and empathy, the more hopefully you can learn from the experience. And it's not going to be perfect, and sometimes it might be really uncomfortable, but it will help you to build those skills long term and get a little bit more comfortable for the next one.
Absolutely. That is so true. And one of the factors that I think people don't always remember is that your team is watching. They're counting on you to do the hard thing. Stand up for them. They're counting on you to make a stand or stand for something and not be all waffly and spineless, but be firm and be strong and do what it takes to, resolve an issue there. And how you handle that is a reflection on you as a leader. And typically when you have a team, they will emulate what the leader does, right? So if you set an example of how to handle this difficult conversation with wisdom, with tact, with discernment, with empathy, with, open honesty, then that will help them see what this looks like. And then it shows them how to behave maybe in their situation if they find themselves in a similar situation.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, setting the right example is everything. I think there's so much that is seen, and people are so observant to everything around, all the little things that happen in a business day to day. And that leader is always being watched. And you have to really kind of think about, what example are you giving others? What values, again, are you leading by? And, making sure that people see that you are somebody who takes action. You want to create an environment that is productive, that operates well. The team dynamic is a close union, and making sure that everyone is on the same page. They're working towards the same things. And if there's conflict, if there's tension, like it really drains productivity. And
Yeah.
that ongoing conflict is not good for people to be around.
That's right. That's very true. And you want to create a culture of open honesty.
Yeah.
And because your culture is everything. That's what brings people to work. That's what gets people up every day. And that's what creates an environment that people look forward to being a part of. So it is just so important to set the right example, to create that right culture that people look forward to being a part of and love supporting and being. It's like when you're building a great team, you don't have to like make people do stuff. They come and they serve because they want to, because they enjoy it, because they know they're making a difference. They know they're impacting lives. They know that whatever they're doing is bigger than just them. And that's what they look, that's the culture. It's because of the culture that you've created. Like you have emphasized the value that they bring to the organization or to the company. All of this positive reinforcement, and not, an environment where leadership avoids or can't have the hard conversations. It's just such a different environment, such a different culture.
Absolutely.
So speaking of mistakes, so what are some common mistakes that some leaders make? So we just talked about being weak and spineless. What are some other mistakes that leaders make, and how can they be avoided?
Yeah, I love this question, and there's plenty to sort of think about here, but I just picked a couple that sort of always kind of come up, or what I see the most. The first one is just around communication generally. When a leader doesn't have strong enough communication, and this could be they're not communicating enough, they're not communicating regularly with their team, or they're super unclear. They might not know how to engage in those difficult conversations or even good conversations. So, say someone's getting promoted, or say someone wants to move ahead in their career. How do you engage in that conversation? I think just generally communication is the core of everything. And from a leadership perspective, you want to really make sure that you refine those skills, and you are concise, you are clear, you are accurate, you are giving people the information that they need day to day to be successful. So that's one mistake I see. The second I would say is, making sure that people understand the goals, their role expectation, and have clear direction day to day. So often I find that organizations may not have a clear set of expectations or goals across the organization, and that creates a lot of confusion for the team. And making sure that people have a clear path. What do they need to focus on? What are the goals of them as individuals and as a team? What's everybody working towards? Super important. And the third thing I would say is not investing enough in employee growth and development. So with this, it's having a great onboarding experience, making sure that people are trained well, that they have ongoing development opportunities. Managers really need to invest that time in understanding their team. What are their strengths? How can we maximize the team performance based on their strengths? And really investing time in growing people. It's such a costly thing when people leave, and to rehire and to retrain. So investing that time in really great people is one of the most important things. And unfortunately, it's one of those things sometimes that we don't put enough time towards.
Yeah, agreed. That is so true. And I love how you said that communication is so key. And one of the things that I found that helped me in my communication when I think I was getting ready to give a big speech or something somewhere. And I actually did like a mock situation where I had like
to
people,
practice.
on Zoom, and I'm like, this is a situation, this is what I got to talk about. And so I kind of pretended that they were the person, and then they gave me feedback on, well, be sure to do this and sit up straight and hold your shoulders back and talk slower and all the things,
Yeah.
because it was hard. I was scared.
Yeah.
you
Well,
know.
and I think you called out a great, another mistake that leaders I think don't do enough. They don't ask for feedback enough. And I think
Mm,
asking for feedback from their
yeah,
team, asking for help,
ask
asking
for that.
just for that perspective is something we don't do enough. And I always encourage people, if they're in a challenging situation, ask for some feedback, ask for some support. Like, it is so valuable, and look how it helped you to make sure that you were feeling confident and ready to go into that speech, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So critical, because this is being an entrepreneur is new territory for a lot of people. And there's so much involved. There's so many conversations that you get to have that you never have to have as a corporate employee.
Yep.
It's like you just go, you do your job, you get your paycheck, you get your 2 weeks of paid vacation and your health insurance benefits and all the things. And you don't worry about these kind of conversations that you don't even realize are happening behind the scenes by your supervisor. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like
sure.
that's someone else's job. But when you're the entrepreneur and you're the boss and it's your job now to have these
Yeah.
conversations, that's a whole new ball of wax.
Yeah, and it's, I think there's so much training, there's so much learning that I'd always encourage people, if they're in a new manager role or if they're running a team, new leadership, take the time, really make sure that you have those foundational skills, because, when the time comes, you will need them. And I think it's okay if you don't have all the answers, but really invest in yourself. Take that time to make sure that you're feeling ready and equipped. There's many, many tools and resources, whether it's training or working with a coach. Like, just really take that time, because you want to feel confident and ready when you have big decisions to make or challenging conversations to have, even just strategic, long-term planning, thinking about how to build a team. You want to make sure that you have the tools and resources and training to be successful with that.
Yes, absolutely. And now I know that you mentioned that one of the things that most new leaders or entrepreneurs don't do is ask for feedback. Are there any other things that are a leadership lesson that you wish more people knew?
Mm. I think the thing I would say is to be authentic and to
Mm,
develop your own leadership style, because so often we try to emulate others. And
mhm.
I think if we try to portray someone else, or if we're not, you know leading by those values, right, that we talked about earlier, we have to be ourselves. We have to show who we
Mm,
are. And I think over time and the experiences that we have, the people we work with shape us. But
mhm.
develop your style, and that takes time. It takes many learnings, but if you're authentic, that's how people connect with you, and that's how people build trust with you. They want to show up and work with people who are being themselves. And I think in the work environment, that inspires them to be themselves, and really creating that inclusive work environment where people feel you can be unique, you can be yourself, you can share your unique thoughts and perspectives. So I think that's one lesson I've learned, to really develop your style and do what feels right to you as you build your leadership journey.
Yeah, that's really great advice. Be authentic. Would you say, though, that there's such a thing as being too authentic or too transparent?
Sure, sure. I think, listen, like, I think in stressful circumstances, you have to know when to express your emotions, and knowing when the right time is to speak about how we're feeling and things like that. I'm not in any way saying you should be robotic. I think you should absolutely show who you are and express your emotions. That's important. But there's a
Mhm.
time and a place. And I think, you want to make sure that you are able to hold composure and show resiliency and make sure to move the team forward. But
Yeah.
if you're in that stressful state and you're freaking out, and that, what's that going to do for your team? People
Right.
want people who can keep things moving and take control of a situation. And then, of
Mhm.
course, you can express yourself in the right way when the stressful situation has passed and it's the right time to do it, you know?
Yeah. 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 That is so good. Because if you start freaking out, so I remember a time when I was taking my kids on our very first plane ride together. It was a family trip from Wisconsin to Florida on Sun Country Airlines. My son was 5, and then I had a little baby as well. And I was terrified. I was like literally freaking out on the inside
Yeah.
because I knew that if I showed on the outside how terrified I was to be getting on this plane, then he was going to freak out. And I was like, I can't have him freak out. So I have to, like make it seem like, oh, isn't this fun? We're like, it's an adventure and we're doing all the great things and we're going to have a blast. But, as I'm like, my legs are shaking as we're walking onto the plane. I'm just like putting it on for
Yeah.
him, for his protection and for his enjoyment. So he equated this experience with something that was good and that he would remember for a very long time, and not receive my terror and trepidation.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing we have to do for our teams.
Yeah.
We have to, not let them see us sweat. I think there's some kind of commercial or something that says never let them see us sweat.
Yeah, it's hard. We're human.
Mhm.
It's not always easy to control, we all have certain triggers that bring out bigger emotions. And I think you can't really beat yourself up. Sometimes it's hard to control, and we're not always going to be perfect. But as much as we can, we have to find that way to be at our best as much as we can, and really be
Mhm.
somebody that people can look up to and want to follow through the storm, and want to make sure that everyone's okay, and that yes, this was a difficult time. We can acknowledge that, and we can sort of debrief after the fact, but let's get through it together and make sure that we're all, good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. So good. Because it's a team. You're the leader, yes, but we all need to get through it together. This is
Yeah.
a team effort, on this entrepreneurial journey. And there was a point that you just made about you don't have to get it 100% right, but you're going to, of course, try. I find that it's super important to have a community of people that I can talk to. So I have these one or two or maybe 3 close friends that
Yeah.
if I'm feeling some kind of way about a situation and I'm freaking out, I have my freak out friends that I can
Yeah.
call and I can truly like do all the freaking out. And they
Yeah.
help bring me back to center, talk me off the ledge so that I can get
Yeah.
myself together and approach my team. And that I think is so important too, is to surround yourself with that group or those people who can help you through these times, help you learn, help give you a new perspective, help you recover from the trigger, or because some people just know how to push your buttons.
I mean, yeah, that's for sure true. And I love what you said just around having that trusted space, that group of, call it, advisors that you kind of look to, or mentors. And those are people that can bring you back to neutral, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's important. I think it's also just kind of knowing other activities that can help us to kind of cool down. And often I tell people, take a break, take a walk, get outside.
Yeah.
If you're really heightened in the emotions,
Mhm.
take a beat, take a step away,
Mhm.
cool down. And that
Mhm.
can be the case also in those difficult conversations. You can notice that either yourself or the other individual, or those emotions are kind of heightening, and say,
Mhm.
listen, like, why don't we take a break? Why don't we come back to this? Because you want to be in a place where you are productive, you're able to take action. And sometimes the emotions can get the best of us. So knowing who's that group of people or a few people who help me to come back to neutral? What are those activities, in my
Mm.
toolkit that help me? Reading a book, looking at YouTube, cat videos, as everybody loves to say, whatever those things are,
Yeah.
make you feel happy, make you feel better. It's good to know what those are in those periods of stress.
Yes, absolutely. And I've even found, Courtney, that even a glass of ice water,
Mm, yeah.
drink a glass of ice water when you're in the heat of the moment or height of emotions, drink a glass of ice water. And I don't know what it is. It's just something
It
about
works.
it. It totally works to
Wow.
get your life back together and
Mm,
regroup and clear your head like
yeah.
instantly. Like you come back to yourself. It's like
There is a thing that a breathing exercise that a therapist had taught me a while ago, and you probably have heard of it. It's called boxed breathing, where you
mm,
breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, you release it for 4 seconds, and you do this a few times. I
mhm.
have found that this helps me so much when I'm really stressed out and I can feel tense and not sure how to sort of take that break. But
Mhm.
breathing exercises, mindfulness. There's a lot of really wonderful practices that can help you to shift gears from maybe a negative place to a more positive, productive place.
Yes, yes, those are great suggestions. Mindfulness, breathing,
Yeah.
yeah, all of those things so critical and helpful. They work. They totally work. They're so simple, and no one even has to know you're doing it.
Yeah. And now the glass of water, I'm going to take that one. I appreciate you sharing that. That's a good one.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, Courtney, I can't believe we're almost running out of time. I don't want us to leave before people find out how they can stay in touch with you, how they can learn more about, leadership, team development, get some coaching. How can we reach you?
Yeah, so the best way I would say is my website, and that is www.courtneymuller.com. And then on my website, I have all my socials there, got my Instagram and LinkedIn and
Oh, we have
Facebook.
it pulled up here. What a
Oh,
beautiful
there we
one.
go.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. I love your colors. They're
Thank
so
you.
calming.
Thank you.
I love it. Nice and green and just bright, but not quite
Yeah.
fluorescent. Oh, nice. So subtle. It's really
Thank you.
landing on me like, like I really want to learn more.
Thank
I love
you.
that. Yeah, so
And
nice.
if people want to chat, I have free what I call discovery calls. And it's sort of just a consult of getting to know each other, learning what that person's career challenges might be, whether it's finding a new role, making that change, or some sort of leadership challenge. I'm always
Mhm.
happy to speak with people, just see how I might support their career journey.
I love that. And then we also have you on Instagram as well. What a beautiful
Yep.
Instagram page. And then I'm sure people can DM you there. And then, of course, sign up for just a call. Thank you so much for offering that to our audience. So many people are in so many different stages
Yeah.
of their journey, whether it's an entrepreneurial journey or corporate team leadership journey, managerial, maybe a new manager, because so many times people get promoted to manager with absolutely no training, like
Yeah.
no
Happens a lot.
foundation. They just get kind of tossed into this managerial role and they have like no experience working with people, coaching people, knowing what a great team looks like or how to develop one. you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Any final closing remarks? If nobody remembers anything today, what do you want them to leave with?
I think we talked about so many wonderful topics, I think, in the leadership world. The thing I would probably leave with people is, really start with those core values as you're developing, your leadership style and how you want to build a team. Look inward and really think about what matters to you and
Mhm.
the type of impression, the type of way you want to treat people. And make sure to start there. And you're not going to have all the answers. And even with many, many years of experience, you're still going to be challenged at all different levels. But to really look around you, always be open to support and feedback, and really think about those people around you that can support you and help you in your journey. But there's always going to be new challenges, especially as a leader. And, it's a learning opportunity. You may not get it right or perfect, and that's okay. Like, do your best, give it your best shot, show up at your best, and it's going to be a learning opportunity, even if it doesn't go your way.
Yes. And those are key words right there. It's going to be a learning opportunity, even if it doesn't go your way, because then you learn what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah. You need to have failure,
Yeah, for sure. Well, Courtney, this has been such an amazing time with you. Thank you so much for your wisdom, your knowledge, the golden nuggets that you've shared with us today. Courtney, you were made for something great. So go and be awesome.
Thank you, Renee. This was super fun. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely.